My workspace has been taken. Oh no, I don't think I can shoot a video today. Katana has moved into the space. Hey girl. Guys, Paul from GeeksLoveDogs here. It's Monday, May 12th, so it's the good, the bad, and the books. I didn't actually put out a video Friday like I wanted to. Everything keeps getting pushed back because I'm still having issues with my phone, which is my camera, my microphone, and everything else. So I apologize if you cared. And I'm still working on that, as the phone place is telling me that it's all my imagination, that my battery isn't holding a charge. Anyway, so we're here to talk about books. So let's talk about what I've read. I mentioned in the monthly wrap up, which was part of the last 2 weeks. This is basically a 2 week wrap up because I didn't do a good, the bad, and the books last week. I read the 2 more sci-fi Ron Goulart books, and I'm still working on that video with my phone being how it is, and I was trying to film it a little differently so I wasn't standing at the table all the time. I have to shoot it in pieces, and that's still coming. It was supposed to be out Wednesday. It may now be moved back to Friday because I have something special that came in today, so I'm going to try and shoot that for Wednesday. I know I'm a disaster. I'm a walking mess. My apologies. But I did read these to go along with the Joe Easy mystery. And if you want to find out what I have to say about these, please wait for the video, the Ron Goulart review, as it is. I can say in advance, it's not going to be all positive, and we'll leave it at that. But those were read. So, over the last couple of weeks. I also read Island of the Dead by Brian Keene. Now, normally Brian Keene is a horror writer. So this came out, and I'm into sword and sorcery, and a lot of you probably are into fantasy and sword and sorcery and Conan. And so I got this thinking it was going to be pretty horrific. It was obviously sword and sorcery related, and the horror is not as pronounced as I expected it to be. There's a little bit, and the fact the background of it, of course, Island of the Dead, you have zombies, Walking Dead, that kind of thing, is of course horror adjacent, horror related. It is at its heart, though, a sword and sorcery book, which surprised me. It's at its heart, I should say, more a Conan book or a Conan pastiche. And the first half of it comes off really like that. It really reads like a well-written Conan pastiche. So if you're looking for a quick one-off sword and sorcery read, this might be something that works for you. The second half is not bad by any means, but it kind of changes gears. It feels a little more like I don't know if you've read like any of the Lost World kind of books like Arthur Conan Doyle and others wrote, where they're trying to escape from this place of evil, darkness, monsters. The second half is more like that. It's more of an escape from the situation they're in kind of book, and feels a little less like a Conan book. As a whole, it's still a very good book. It's still a very good read. It's still a quick read. And if you're looking for a quick Conan-like fix, then I suggest you pick this up and check it out. Now, I'm about to go on a little bit of a rant here, and I know how much you love those. So I'm going to show you something. All right, so I'm going to put these down here. Now, I finished these both the same day, and you're going to ask me how they're related. Well, kind of based on comic book characters, graphic novel. Okay. So I'm going to do this as a mini review and comparison. If you get mad at me, I apologize, but I'm going to try and be as polite about this as I can. And you work from your own opinions. So this is We Stand on Guard by Brian K. Vaughan. Brian K. Vaughan is a well-known entity in graphic novels. He's done Saga, Paper Girls. He's done Y the Last Man, which is really critically acclaimed. Brilliant writer, great work. So We Stand on Guard is a story of a group of guerrilla fighters defending what's left of Canada after they were invaded and attacked by America, who is apparently using an annex of Canada to take their natural resources. In this case, water, which apparently America was turned into a dust bowl, and so now they're off stealing water. that could be exchanged for any resource, oil, gold, whatever. Same concept though. It is a very female-driven book. The cast are all strong, intelligent females. Even the villain of the story is a strong female character. Mr. Vaughn wrote a book that is action-packed, intelligent, fun, a little bit gory, very exciting. The entire book is done where every scene moves the book forward. Every scene moves the story and the plot forward. There is no sitting around. There is no indecision. It is all strong females making a decision, moving forward, and creating a fun story. It's full of military armor and guns and action like you expect from a story. This is only running a 3.64 on Goodreads. Sadly, and I think it deserves a much higher rating. So we follow this character, Amber, after she's grown up and she's lost her brother. We don't know at the beginning how it happens, as she survives out in the wild and meets a guerrilla team and joins them and works to overcome the enemy. We do not find out the fate of her brother until later, but after she's lost him, she goes on, moves forward, and becomes a badass. It's a good, solid book. Now we have What If Loki Was Worthy, the first book in the Marvel's What If series, a Loki and Valkyrie story by Madeline Rue. So obviously this is a Loki book, color-coded to Loki's color scheme. You can see Loki is the main character there. What if Loki was worthy? So let's talk about the story. Loki plans to prank his brother Thor. He enlists the aid of a dwarf named Kvisa to assist him in this. But Kvisa has her own plans. And though Loki just wanted to prank Thor, she changes the game a bit. So Thor and his friends are taking the Bifrost down to Earth with the Destroyer, the giant robot killing machine. We're not sure why the Destroyer is going. If you ever read Thor, it really doesn't make sense that he's just traveling to Earth randomly with him. But anyway, because story reasons. And due to the way they mess with Bifrost and the Destroyer, when they get to Earth, they land in the middle of New York City in a busy street, and the Destroyer goes nuts. They can't control him, and he starts firing off, killing people, destroying property. He hits Thor with one bolt and kills Thor. And in that traffic jam is also Happy Hogan, Tony Stark's best friend, bodyguard, driver, gopher, you name it, who is also killed. The Destroyer is stopped. All hell has broken loose. And this falls on Loki because it was his prank, even though it did not go as intended and was screwed with by this dwarf Kvisa. For his punishment, he is sent in exile to the equivalent of hell without powers. And this is the best part of the whole book. His exile to a living hell is to be sent to a trailer park in Buffalo, New York, surrounded by Bill's Mafia fans. And boy, did that make me laugh. As somebody who lives in Western New York, I couldn't even argue with this. And at one point, way into the story, Tony calls it Where Dreams Go to Die. Again, I can't argue with that. So we have Thor dead. We have Loki in exile. We have Tony Stark now as the antagonist of this story. He's angry about Happy Hogan's death, and he pulls some strings and get the pieces of the Destroyer brought to him, and he begins to turn the Destroyer into a new armor he can use to invade Asgard and attack the people who attacked his city, because he has no understanding of what happened. It just, to him, looked like an attack from Asgard. And he needs help getting there, so he enlists Jane Foster. The only other real male character in the story is Odin, who is a complete jackass. Is just terribly written. I mean, I know he's kind of a jerk in general, but they made him even worse. And there is an appearance later on by a bodyguard who's this ex-boxer military man who's meant to protect Jane Foster. And at some point, she takes him out like it's nothing, basically with just her wits and a pepper spray, and debilitates this bodyguard. But the other characters in this story would be Jane Foster, like I said, who is brought in by Tony Stark to help her with the wormhole technology. And minor spoiler, it's not a big deal because you find this out at the very beginning of the book. Her daughter, her and Thor's daughter, Quinn, and of course, Valkyrie is in it. And there's Pepper Potts. And the other character is a girl, Donna, a grown woman, Donna, I should say, who is employed Loki while he's in the trailer park. She becomes his mother figure, his strength. She takes him in, takes care of him. Basically, Loki becomes Kathy from the comic strips. All he does is sitting around his trailer, drinking white wine out of a Josh Allen mug, playing with his lizard, Brian, and basically taking care of some dogs for his boss and mother figure, Donna, as she owns a kennel daycare for dogs. So he walks dogs and feeds them, etc. That's his job. Then he goes home and drinks white wine and cries. So we have a 300-page book. You start out with this event. Tony becomes the antagonist and spends 300 pages building this new armor with plans to invade Asgard. Loki, who is the main character, basically does nothing for 300 pages but sit and whine and cry powerless. Well, Donna takes care of him. Jane Foster and her daughter Quinn are incredibly astute and able, and Thor's daughter is this precocious person who at one point is even able to lift Thor's hammer. And Valkyrie, of course, is the warrior princess and even repeatedly called that. The book is called What If Loki Was Worthy? Well, after almost 300 pages of Loki whining, women running around taking care of business, 300 pages of Tony building a destroyer armor for himself, we build towards a climax of the big battle. Now, we're about 260 plus pages into the book. Loki still isn't worthy. Thor's daughter has taken the hammer. Valkyrie has come down to Earth and despised Loki and then kind of came around to seeing that he's not so bad and trying to convince him he's worthy because that's what Frigga wants. And then we have the big battle. When about page 264, they finally tell you basically that Loki was worthy. See it here. Page 264, and Loki changed, becoming newly formed god of outcasts. So he's not the god of thunder, he's the god of outcasts. This is page 264 out of 300. The battle takes place and lasts, I don't know, a couple paragraphs before Tony is defeated with Quinn, Jane, Pepper Potts, Valkyrie doing most of the heavy lifting and Loki getting a minute where he does some stuff. Now, Kavisa, who was the dwarf who set this all off in the first place by screwing with Loki's plan, they go looking for her for like 2 sentences and then never bring her up again. We have no idea why she did what she did, really, and they never even bothered to try and stop her or look for her or get revenge on her. So just wanted to bring that up because it never comes up again after the beginning. Loki never even mentions that she was part of it. Never tries to defend himself, just spends most of the 300 pages drinking wine and whining. And then after the battle, we go up to Asgard with Jane, and we spend the next 30 pages hearing about how fluffy the beds are, about the knickknacks in the room, and then she's finally brought in front of Odin and Frigga. And what does she pull out to argue against Thor's daughter being taken by Odin to Asgard to become a new princess to be trained? She literally uses her lawyer. That's right, she's arguing with Odin by bringing her lawyer. That's probably about the most exciting part of the book, really. And then it's about 1 page. And her lawyer at one point actually invokes Britney Spears. So this book, this 300-page book about Loki, spent 300 pages doing nothing. Scene after scene after scene of no plot progression. Nothing happening. Every scene in this book that is only rated 3.64 versus over 4 for this one, every scene moves forward. Every scene has plot progression, has something happening. And I went and checked reviews, and people are talking about how good this book is. And I'm at a loss. I am at a complete and utter loss. Because the book about Loki being worthy was about Loki sitting in his trailer drinking wine, complaining, well, fringe characters like Pepper Potts and Jane Foster and a 9-year-old Asgardian princess actually did a few things, but nothing really action-oriented. The book is boring. Nothing happens. This is a comic book novel about Marvel superheroes. Not contemporary fiction, but yet the combined fight scenes, which include the battle that sets off the storyline, and 2 concurring battles, all 3 of them combined are about a total of maybe 2 pages. If you took out the unnecessary pages of Loki whining and doing nothing, making a random trip to New York City that was really only to say, oh, look, I have a niece. Thor had a daughter, and served no other purpose. And the pages of Tony sitting in his lab being engrossed in building the new destroyer armor. You could have told this whole story in about 100 pages and had the same effect, but made it more enjoyable. None of this even makes sense. There is a scene where, if you know anything about Norse gods in general, Odin has a spear, and its ability is that it never misses. It cannot miss. It's what it does. That's its ability. And he throws it at someone and manages to stab the wrong person with it. But I don't understand how a book that's 170 pages straight through of action and good story and strong female characters doing things is rated lower than a book that is about a character that actually doesn't do much of anything in the book, and nothing happens for 300 pages except for contemplation and construction, and I just don't get it. It makes no sense. Now, I'm a fan of Loki. I have a dog named Loki because of my fandom of this. This is not Loki. This is not Marvel. This is not... I know it's a what-if story, and it takes place in an alternate universe, but the characters are supposed to be still the same characters, and they're just not. And yet the praise for this book is fairly effusive. I didn't really see a negative review for this book. And I'm wondering if people are just now so trained to expect less, to expect droning, fluff, nonsense-filled emotional hand-wringing as part of the story, that they think this is what they're supposed to be reading. Literally spent a page or less on the final battle, but the 30 pages following it, they managed to talk about fluffy beds, knickknacks, and Britney Spears. I do not understand what is happening to books anymore. So, to sum up, if you want a book with action, mechs, guns, strong female characters actually doing something, read this. It's great. If you want a book where a guy sits around crying into white wine, then you can read this. You choose. It's totally up to you what you're into. Action or emotional hand-wringing. All right, rant over. Moving on. Real quickly, let's talk about what I'm currently reading. I have started Barry Hammond's Cold Front. I haven't gotten into the action yet. I haven't loved the beginning of it yet. I'm pretty sure that's going to turn around. I just get a feeling it's going to get better. I hope I'm right. I'm about a third of the way through. So far, the characters are just terrible people, which means they'll probably get their comeuppance. You know how that works with horror books. So I'm looking forward to the second third. I'll be finishing that this week. I'm also still reading Michael McDowell's Blackwater. I'm more than 2/3 of the way through that. It's really good. Southern Gothic, mostly story. There isn't a lot of action in this, but the storytelling is great. And I'll give you more on that when I finish it, which should be released by next week. So hopefully that'll be done. And I also just started about 10 pages into Frogs and Margaritas by Angel Ramon. It is a creature feature monster book about killer frogs in Puerto Rico. And it sounded great. I just downloaded it on a lark and started it. I'm only a few pages in, and I'm doing it on the e-reader, so it might be a bit, but I'm reading that. So as far as what I'm going to be reading, I'm going to be finishing up those, of course, and I'm going to start The Girl Factory by Robert Franklin Murphy, a martial arts cloning book, and I'm excited to get to that. And I will pick something else out of my TBR list this week as I go. I haven't decided what yet, or what I'll be reading after those, or after I finish those. So channel stuff. Last week, I did, of course, my monthly wrap-up, which was in place of The Good, the Bad, and the Books, due to the issues I mentioned with my phone. And Wednesday, I did a spotlight on my Robert E. Howard and related collection. So my Conan, etc. books, the books written by Robert E. Howard that I owned. Just a little bit, show what I had, share my collection. So those were the two things I worked on last week. So moving forward this week, I was going to do that reading Ron Goulart for Wednesday, but like I said, I got a couple things that came in today in the mail, and I might move the Ron Goulart thing to Friday so I could finish it, because like I said, still having trouble with the camera, my phone, and I'll do what I received in the mail for Wednesday. So hopefully that all works out. That's the plans. So I probably took up enough of your time with my long-winded, angry rant about my Loki book. Hopefully you're not too mad at me and understand where I was coming from with that. So I appreciate your time, and I hope to see you here for my next video. Remember, secret to Zen, read books, pet dogs, listen to heavy metal, and I'll see you soon.